Cardinal.
EPA chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight down speed off. Bring in, speed off. Off. Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
What's up, everybody out there in internet land? You are looking at a Falcon 9 rocket at Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, a Falcon 9 rocket specifically, and we are getting ready to launch the Transporter 4 mission, or Transforter mission, I'm sorry, into sun-synchronous orbit. I'm Jack Beyer with NASA Space Flight. You know me and my annoying voice. And, of course, it's not just me today. I am joined by our intrepid team, some of whom are out in the field, some of whom are in the studio or home, wherever they are right now. And, of course, the first person we've got on studio commentary today is Adrian Beil. Mr. Adrian Beil, what's up, dude?
It's going great here over in Germany. Yes, I am at home, and I'm looking forward to a launch of a non-internet rocket here. So, yeah, let's do this.
Non-internet rocket. Internet rocket good, non-internet rocket also good. Well, thank you for joining us today, Adrian. Also joining us out in the field, we have Mr. Chris Gebhardt. Chris, how's it looking out there today?
It is looking overcast, but not entirely bad. SpaceX indicated a few minutes ago that weather has actually flipped from 70% no-go to 60% go. So hopefully we can get that hole in the clouds for them and get this mission off the ground.
That is quite a flip. Something envelope expansion.
Yes.
Also out in the field, we have Mr. Stephen Marr, although he is not on comms today. He'll be shooting, I think, some still images. And, of course, we've also got Thomas Burkhart out in the field at the Causeway. What's up, Thomas?
How's it going, Jack? Like Chris said, hoping for weather to cooperate, but it seems to be trending in the right direction. We might just get lucky enough for a launch today.
I like things that trend in the right direction, and I like it when we get launches, when we expect there to be a launch. So hopefully everything goes great, and we are, about 34 minutes away, roughly, from launch of this mission. So don't forget, everybody, we are a interactive style stream. You can ask us whatever questions you want, although that's not a guarantee we'll answer them. But ask us a question about what you're seeing, we'll probably answer it. Ask us a question completely random that is not related to what we're doing, maybe we won't answer it. But either way, get this right out of the way. The 4 towers are for lightning protection. There, we got that out of the way. Took care of that. Yes, I'm sure. I'm very, 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 very sure. But oh yeah, and also we've got Patrick in the background pushing the levers, pushing the buttons, which is a little bit of a change. It's not Michael for once. So thank you, Patrick, for doing the hard work of getting everything running and humming back in the studio. So cool. I think that is all the housekeeping. Let's talk about space and rockets, as we're about 33 minutes away from launch of Falcon 9. Let's see. First off, while I wait for some questions to come in and this piece of software that Michael wrote to populate, who wants to talk about the booster on this mission? This is B1061, right?
It is indeed. It is this is booster 1061. And it is making its 7th flight, which is the 5th time that a booster has supported 7 flights. It previously launched Crew 1 and Crew 2 to the International Space Station, CRS-23 up there as well. A Sirius XM-8 Sirius XM internet radio satellite, and NASA's IXP, the little X-ray astronomy telescope, back in December, and it also launched Starlink Group 4-7 earlier this year, and it last flew 57 days ago. So not a record, but last flew less than 2 months ago.
That's quite a turnaround.
And also, that's quite a launch history with 3 flights to the ISS with XP. That's a manifest.
Yeah, and 4 humans to its credit too. Yep.
Well, 8, isn't it 8 humans?
Oh, 8. Sorry, 8. Yes, 8. Yeah, sorry. Ooh. I knew that was 2 and then just said the wrong number. Apologies there.
happy that we've all settled on calling it XP because it's IXPE is not as fun of a payload to or satellite name to say, but XP, it's like, oh, it's a cute little XP. I don't know, it's got a nice ring to it.
It's like the recent Atlas launch that launched Ghost.
Yes, it did. Thank you for making that joke, Adrian. Now you are affirming that we are friends. Our friendship continues.
Thank you.
Let's see. A couple super chats coming in already. Connor G, thank you for the support. They say, please support SpaceX logo on Reddit in the Place subreddit. It's April Fool's today. There is a thing on Reddit called Place. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. There is a SpaceX logo getting built. But hey, guess what there also is? James Juries, thank you for the support, says, who wants to join me in drawing the NSF logo in Place? Which I think we should do probably somewhere around the SpaceX logo. I think our member Discord is getting that going. So if you're in our member Discord, pop in and coordinate writing NSF on Place so we can be immortalized on internet history forever. But I digress. Stefan, thank you for the support. They say, what's the tower in the middle for? That's for launching things into orbit. Let's see. Musical Wolves. What are the 4 magical wands? We already went over that. Jay, can you tell how much I love the 4 towers question? Jay Gunpla, thank you for the support. They say, so aside from the 4 lightning towers of the pad, what are some of the other structures around the rocket? Who wants to take that one?
Oh, I can take that one. So I think the big thing, there's the rocket itself, and you're actually only seeing the nose cone of the rocket, the top of the payload fairing. The kind of truss structure that's a bit darker in front of the rocket from our point of view is actually the transporter erector, which is what is used to roll the rocket out horizontally to the pad and then raise it vertical for launch. Also contains all of the umbilicals, including the fueling lines, electrical and data connections, things like that, that help the ground systems connect to the rocket until liftoff. So you're seeing that. You're also seeing a building that's on the bottom in front of the rocket from our view again. That is the horizontal integration facility, sometimes just called a hangar. That is where Falcon 9 boosters, upper stages, fairings, payloads, all of those things can sit when being prepared for launch. That's where all those stages get integrated and put onto the transporter erector before it rolls out to the pad itself, all encompassing part of Slick 40, Space Launch Complex 40. You can also see to the right a little bit. I'm not sure how well you can see it in the camera view. There is a liquid oxygen sphere, I think, because kerosene wouldn't be in the sphere, I don't think. So it is probably a liquid oxygen sphere, just a fuel tank, or propellant tank, I should say.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, thanks. I think those are the pretty obvious ones, and of course you've got the lightning towers and the rocket itself.
Can you are those little, I don't know if you can see it, Thomas. There's like 3 little stubby things off to the left of the pad, but to the right, just to the right of one of the lightning towers. Are those rainbirds or just some other kind of structure?
Let me take a closer look.
They're really tiny. They're directly above the SFS in the lower third.
Yeah, I don't think those are the rainbirds are a little bit closer. If you look at the base of the transporter erector, I think you might be able to make out some of the structures that's part of the sound suppression system. I think the stuff to the far left is something else, although I do not know what.
And rounding out the excellent commentary from Thomas there, Moldy Space Industries with the Thomas Fan Club. Thanks, Moldy Space, for the support. And is Moldy Space the founding member of the Thomas Fan Club? I think they are.
I'm pretty sure they are, yeah.
Excellent.
So I appreciate that.
All right, so this is a transporter mission. It's carrying 40 payloads to a sun-synchronous orbit. Chris, do you want to talk about those orbits while I get some user questions in the queue here?
Yeah, because this mission profile is a little bit different. So Falcon 9 will head south here for the transporter mission into its sun-synchronous orbit, like the transporter missions do. Very popular orbital destination, especially for a lot of the smaller satellites and the 40 that are on board here, all needing to get to roughly the same area. So the first thing Falcon 9 is going to do is insert itself into a 640 by 655 kilometer orbit, inclined 97.9 degrees to the equator. It will then deploy the first 3 of its payloads into that orbit. And once they are deployed, the stage will then do a second burn to this time actually lower its orbit. And then 45 minutes later, when it's on the other side of the planet, it will do another brief 1-second burn to lower the orbit into a circular 490 by 510 kilometer orbit, inclined 97.4 degrees to the equator. So a slight little inclination change and a reduction of the orbital velocity of the orbital altitude by 150 kilometers. And in that lower 500 kilometer circular orbit is where they will deploy the remaining 37 payloads from the vehicle. So a little bit different mission profile here today with 3 total burns of the second stage, one to get it into the initial orbit, a second one to lower the orbit, and then a third one to circularize the lower orbit.
Yeah, and
Very
all of that
cool.
kind of starts to explain some of the things about this mission that were maybe initially a little bit confusing. This
Yep.
particular mission is not a return to launch site mission, meaning the first stage is landing on a drone ship, which is just read the instructions, I believe. Someone correct me if
Yes,
I'm wrong.
indeed.
Okay, thank you. Just read the instructions, station downrange, pretty much due south from here. Just far enough east to avoid overflying populated areas, as usual for the polar launch corridor. Sorry, Jack. This mission landing downrange, despite the fact that there are only 40 spacecraft on board, and a lot of people said, "Whoa, 40 spacecraft, isn't that light enough for RTLS?" In fact, previous transporter missions have returned to the launch site, landing at landing zone 1, with way more spacecraft on board than that. And it goes down to a couple things. One of which is, like Chris mentioned, the upper stage will also be saving some propellant to do a maneuver to insert into 2 different sun-synchronous orbits, which does require a little bit more energy to be reserved in the upper stage, meaning the first stage should not reserve too much propellant to do a return to launch site, should instead land downrange, which takes less energy. Also, part of this is that one of the payloads on this mission is actually a half-decent sized satellite, the NMAP satellite from Germany, almost 1,000 kilograms. It's 900 something, and that's almost considered a primary payload for today's mission. So it all comes down to, even though the number of satellites is a lot lower than some of the other transporter missions, the payload mass, the total mass of all the payloads on board, is probably still within a similar range to the other transporter missions. And that, combined with the orbital maneuvering the upper stage is going to do on today's flight, explains why the first stage will not be reserving enough propellant to boost back, will only land downrange.
Cool. Did you say what drone ship it was? I might have missed that.
Yes, just read the instructions is on duty today.
Excellent. And let's see, James Juries, looks like you just upgraded to Capcom membership. Thank you so much for the new membership level there. If you guys don't know, we have the membership program. You can get various perks for the various levels of support. James Juries just got access to our member Discord at the Capcom level and above. That is how you get access to our Discord. So thank you, James, for the support there. We could not do what we do without our members, so that's very awesome of you. Rough Riders asking, if this delays, will it have to wait until the SLS wet dress rehearsal is done? Thanks all, and I'm not going to read the latter part of that, because then I would have to crush more apple boxes. Y'all don't know about that. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Okay. But
Also,
to
thing
answer
you
the
would know
question,
from the member Discord.
Yeah, exactly.
we
But,
can definitely talk about the range though, Chris, because we've got
Yeah.
a couple different factors to actually consider here. Based
Yes.
purely on the weather forecast, the backup opportunities for this mission include tomorrow and Monday. However, the factors in play and why they have already definitely skipped Sunday is that orange rocket that I can see off to my left over at Launch Complex 39B, which is actually supposed to today to begin starting its wet dress rehearsal procedures, which will culminate in the actual fueling NT0 on Sunday, which does require range assets, and thus this rocket cannot launch on Sunday. There is also the Axiom 1 mission coming up next week, currently scheduled for Wednesday, from 39A, and that mission would take priority over Transporter 4 because it is a crewed mission to the ISS. So, Chris, what kind of factors are they juggling, and could they potentially squeeze one in tomorrow or Monday if today does not work out?
Yeah, so for launches off of the Cape side, they can go tomorrow, they can go Monday if needed. The sort of complicating thing here is the Axiom flight that you mentioned, because both Axiom and SLS are sharing Complex 39. And even though they have 2 completely separate launch pads, 39A and 39B are both part of Complex 39. And as such, there are certain commodities like liquid nitrogen that they share. and that you have to be able to replenish the liquid nitrogen after SLS uses what it needs for its wet dress before you have enough left for the Axiom flight and what that and the nitrogen that requires. So there is a bit of that in play for Axiom and SLS, but not for Transporter.
Yeah.
Transporter. I thought we agreed we were calling it Transporter.
Yeah.
Let's see. Good question though. Let's see. Another one. Musical Wolves asking, how long will it take before we see fairings arrive back at the Cape? Like an RTLS for fairings? Is that a thing? Or you mean like on the boats?
If you're talking about on the boats, we see that a whole lot, but I don't think you're ever going to see fairings RTLS because that's not really how physics works.
Yeah, they deploy much further down range, and than would make that possible, right?
Yeah,
Also,
and
they
don't,
can't do
of
a
course.
boost bug.
Yeah, they don't actually have propulsion in the form of boost back burn or anything. The only propulsion they have are some small thrusters for attitude control, but you couldn't do any like translational maneuvering with them.
Just like hire Joe Barnard as a consultant and have him strap some solid motors onto the fairings and call it a day.
But to be
Easy.
fair, having boost spec fairings sounds like a Kerbal idea, so noted. All I say is noted.
Thank you for that. Someone tell Harry so he can air launch a Falcon 9 and then do a boost back with the fairings. Let's see. Outdoors Man Show, interesting name, is asking, what is the largest satellite on this mission? Thomas, did you touch on that a second ago when we were talking about
We did
payloads?
briefly, but I would yield to our friend Adrian, who is, I think, the relevant expert on that particular payload. Do you want to talk about Nmap?
Yeah,
Actually, before you do that, I'm going to totally interrupt you because it's the 20-minute vent. If I don't say that, I get fired. So 20-minute vent has started, which indicates that everything is on track for launch so far. Anyway, Adrian, Nmap.
Yeah, Nmap is standing for Environmental Mapping and Analysis Program, and it's a German satellite, which makes me qualified to talk about the satellite. It's almost 1 ton. It's 980 kilograms. And it's built by, or let's say the building was mainly commissioned and oversight by the German, now I only know the German name. It's a Deutsches Luft- und Raumfahrtmuseum in German, but I don't, Deutsches Luft- und Raumfahrtzentrum in German, but I don't know how it's called in English. So it's our space agency. Yeah, and it's, as Thomas said before, it's almost a primary payload from the weight. It's quite heavy. It's an environmental satellite, which will help to monitor Earth. And yeah, I'm very happy to always see German payloads on Falcon 9s. It was initially not launching on Falcon 9, if I recall correctly. It was planned on the Indian PSLV rocket, but was moved to a Falcon 9.
It's DLR.
Yeah, I think that all I've heard is it called DLR here in the States.
Yeah.
Wait, say the name again though, Adrian, because it's fantastic when hearing a German.
Yeah, it's Deutsches. Basically, full name would be Deutsches Zentrum für Luft- und Raumfahrt.
Raumfahrt. Thank you.
See, that's why I'm here.
Cool. So let's do some more questions. How about as we see the 20-minute vent continue to do its thing? Going back to the discussion of the fairings, Gus F is asking, what fairings are we using today? Are we aware of what previous missions these fairings have been used on, or if they are used, or what's going on with those?
They look very new from the photos that Steven and Julia got from the pad today, and according to SpaceX's website, they do not list any previous missions for these particular fairings on their website, and they do look new.
Yeah, so they are probably new. It is worth noting, though, that SpaceX has also reflown fairings and not really said anything about them. For some reason, they are not as talkative about fairing reuse as they are about booster reuse for some reason, which is unfortunate. So I guess we don't know 100% sure, but like Chris mentioned, they do look new. There's no mention of previous flights, so they are probably new fairings on this particular mission. But yeah.
Yeah, they look very white.
Another question here. We already said it's a drone ship landing, so we answered Brent's excellent question if it was drone ship or RTLS. It is drone ship. Steven is asking, do engineers have to factor in the weight of ice on the booster for accurate trajectory?
That is a great question, and the answer is usually not. The fact is that, first of all, most of the ice falls off when you light engines because vibrations knock them all off. And then any that does remain is such a small amount of mass that it is pretty much negligible when compared to the thrust of the engines and the mass of the rest of the vehicle. And so, generally speaking, those mass figures do not come into account for calculating trajectories and things like that for rockets. Same thing can be said on Falcon 9 specifically. Some of the soot that builds up, or even the fact of whether rockets are newly painted or not. Those things all kind of fall in the realm of it does not change the mass significantly enough to actually matter. So, generally speaking, they are not part of those calculations.
Very cool. Good question. And Jack Daniel, good name, is asking, do you expect their booster roster, or SpaceX's booster roster, to expand with the additional launch needs from the whole OneWeb, etc. situation?
Oh, interesting question. Yeah, okay, so I think I would, Thomas, I'm interested in your answer on this, and Adrian, you as well. I would say yes, I expect the booster inventory to increase, but not because of the addition of the OneWeb launches. That is more a consideration of the second stage, whereas adding more missions from a first stage perspective nowadays is about booster fleet management more than anything else. But the reason I say yes, we expect it to increase is because we have several Falcon Heavy missions coming up this year, and we know that there are new side cores that are coming for some of those flights that the customer wanted a brand new vehicle. We know some of them will be reused. So yes, there are new boosters coming that will, and of course the side cores of the Falcon Heavies can either be reserved for future side cores on Falcon Heavy missions or turned into Falcon 9 boosters. So in a way, yes, we expect the booster number to increase, but not necessarily because of the OneWeb additions to the manifest.
Yeah, I will pretty much just concur with everything Chris said. The fleet will expand, but was also going to expand before the OneWeb thing happened at all. It is mostly about SpaceX is continuing to meet their manifest, and a lot of these boosters are getting pretty old, although they have not really found a limit for reuse yet. But either way, the fleet is expanding, and that will be at least partially to the benefit of the new OneWeb launches.
I have nothing to add to that besides that I completely agree with you both.
There you go.
And we have another question by Daniel B here, who's asking, what's your take on the ending of Crew Dragon capsule production? Which was
yes.
Yeah, there was a discussion that was going on the last few days. So yeah, your take.
My take is this is exactly what I expected. They were never going to just keep building Dragon capsules and just making new ones. This was always going to get to the same thing that NASA had to do in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, which is manage the fleet that you have. And when you look at what the Dragon manifest is, that ideally once Starliner is online, and of course they're aiming for OFT2 in May of this year, and then the crew flight test in the latter half of the year, which would probably set up a scenario of Starliner in operation in late 2023. So once you sort of know that, you need one Dragon capsule right now for a long duration flight to the ISS, and then that leaves you 3 that you can have in the other parts of the rotation for the Polaris Dawn mission, any other private flights that are coming, the future Axiom mission, things like that. So it just becomes about capsule management and refurbish and turnaround times, which is something that we are very used to in this nation for reusable launch vehicles.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that's all, of course, very true about managing the fleet, and you have Starliner coming online. Personally, I was a little bit surprised for them to stop now. I was expecting a couple more before they stopped production. Obviously, they were going to have to stop at some point because when you're flying reusable vehicles, no reason to keep building new ones when you can fly the ones you already built. But I was a little bit surprised that they stopped so early. 4 capsules seems a little short, and I would not be surprised if they change their mind in a little bit of time, especially if they get a lot more private mission interest. But we'll have to wait and see. As of now, looks like they think 4 will be just enough. So.
Gotcha. Also, another question we got here, which is related to the General Transporter program, is, will there ever be a transporter mission on a Falcon Heavy?
Ooh. I do not believe that is planned. Most of these missions go to, like you said, these sun synchronous orbits, which are low Earth orbits. So a lot of these missions border on between return to launch site and drone ship landing capabilities, which means you're not really towards the end of Falcon 9's performance where you'd be thinking about moving it to a Falcon Heavy. The satellites are usually pretty light. In fact, sometimes on these types of missions, you're actually volume constrained because you need to have a payload dispenser, or not payload dispenser, that's not the right word. A payload adapter is the correct word, for all these different satellites, which is usually a pretty light structure that just takes up a lot of space. And so on these missions where you have to have an adapter for a bunch of different types of satellites, a lot of the times mass is not the limiting factor. And so between all of those factors, it's pretty unlikely that Falcon Heavy would ever be needed for a big rideshare mission like this. The one exception to that, if you look away from the transporter program specifically, of course, STP-2, which was the third and most recent flight of Falcon Heavy, was a rideshare mission, but that was going to very different orbits. It was not going to a low Earth Sun synchronous orbit. In fact, it went to 3 different orbits, one of which was a pretty high, a bit of a higher orbit. And so between all of those kind of objectives, that was a very different kind of flight profile. And also part of that mission was certifying Falcon Heavy, so even if it was even maybe possible to launch that on a Falcon 9, all things considered. But either way,
yeah, and it's worth saying too that there is a Falcon Heavy rideshare mission coming up, but it's just not a transporter rideshare mission.
Right. Yeah.
Very cool. What is that mission called, or is it if it's not a transporter mission, what is it?
Yeah, you're calling me out, Jack. I just remember that there's one left. I don't remember the specific designation of it. I just know that there is a rideshare one coming up on the Heavy. Yeah.
I think it does. I don't think it. It doesn't have like a dedicated name. It's just the ViaSat mission will have rideshare on it.
There we go. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Paul LeMandeline, LeMadeline? Paul, either way, thank you for your support. That's a very generous super chat there. And sorry that I butchered your last name. Let's see. Alex Gar, thank you for the support. Also very generous. Liz Clark, thank you for the support. And Little Trucker Kennel, interesting name, says miniature pinchers in space. I'm not sure what we're talking about there.
Dogs in space, okay.
Dogs in space, cool. Thank you for the support there. And another one from James Juries says, when NSF Falcon 9 plush, also super heavy plush. Sounds like James Juries wants some more rocket plushies. I don't think we have a specific date or plan for either of those things, but lots of things on the drawing board with the merch store, so stay tuned is what I'll say there. Amiga Clone, we were just talking about Crew Dragon. Amiga Clone is asking about Cargo Dragon. Are they still producing Cargo Dragons?
I believe the most recent report was only pertaining to Crew Dragon. I believe Cargo Dragon production is not quite done yet. I do not believe that they've said anything about halting Cargo Dragon production. So
I think they said something about 5 of the, like having 5 Cargo Dragons or something like that.
Okay. It is also worth noting, remember that SpaceX just got awarded a bunch more Cargo Dragon missions, so.
Exactly, yeah.
Cargo Dragon and Crew Dragon share the same, like, basic airframe, right? Is that how that works now? Because it's Cargo Dragon 2, technically, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. So basically, the main differences between the Cargo Dragons and the Crew Dragons right now are that the Cargo Dragons do not have the Super Draco abort engines. So if a launch accident were happening with the rocket underneath it, the capsule doesn't have the ability to fire abort engines and get away in cargo-only mode, but it would have the ability, if it survived the breakup of the vehicle, to jettison its trunk and parachute down to the Atlantic for recovery and refurbishment and reuse if it wasn't too badly damaged. The other major difference, one of the stabilization fin, or 2 of the stabilization fins are gone on the trunk for Cargo Dragon. And then obviously it doesn't carry the full-fledged life support systems that a Crew Dragon would.
Yeah, and what was it? The CRS-7 flight where the second stage went pop?
Yep.
The Cargo Dragon lived through the breakup of the vehicle, and if they had code that could have deployed the satellite, it probably would have been able to, deployed the parachute, my brain.
Mm-hmm.
It probably would have been able to make it back safely, but that code was non-existent at the time, although it exists now, so
And I believe they added it to the next cargo vehicle as well. I believe all the other cargo flights after that with the first gen capsules had that ability as well after CRS-7 was lost.
Classic SpaceX. Let's see. We are just under 7 minutes away from liftoff, we hope, of Falcon 9 from Slick 40. So hang in there with us, and we will hopefully see this thing lift some satellites, 40 to be exact, into orbit here in just a few minutes.
Indeed, and that means that if we are under 7 minutes, that means the rocket itself is actually preparing itself and its engines for liftoff right now with engine chill down, where it lets a little bit of the super cold oxygen into the main end, into the 9 Merlin engines to properly thermally condition them ahead of ignition.
That's what we like to do. We don't want to thermally shock things. We want to properly prepare them to do their job. Thermal shock bad, especially with rocket engines.
Exactly.
We're way too late for this one, but Matthew is asking, what is the purpose of the 20-minute vent? We kind of didn't... We mentioned the 20-minute vent in passing, and we kind of just glossed over it, but we're going to see another couple similar vents here shortly, aren't we?
We are, yes, and they all sort of do the same thing. So the vent at T-minus 20 minutes in large part relates to the fact of how they fuel the second stage, which is they pump all the RP1 kerosene into it first from T-minus 35 minutes to 22 minutes. Then there's a big purge vent from the transporter erector, which is what you see of them preparing to switch over from RP1 kerosene load to the second stage to liquid oxygen. They're also venting some of the liquid oxygen that has boiled off inside of Falcon 9's first stage propellant tank, because the first stage is fueled simultaneously with both of its propellants from 35 minutes all the way down to 2.5 minutes prior to liftoff. And then right under the 2.5 minute mark is when we'll see another vent, which is doing the same thing. It's inerting and purging the lines in the transporter erector so that there is no accidental ignition of propellant on the ground side when Falcon 9 lights its engines and lifts off.
Awesome. Let's see. Musical Wolves is asking when broomstick merchandise. That'd be pretty great. We could just sell a broom, just put a broom in the merch store. We should have done that for today.
Without any branding. It's just a broom.
Just a broom. That would have been great. James Juries, thank you for the support. They say, when are the next pair of iRosas going up to the ISS? What's an iRosa?
Yes, the iRosas are the new, they're the International Space Station rollout solar arrays. So the space station has its 8 solar array wings, and those have been up there for quite some time. The first one was launched in 2001. The last one was launched in 2009. So they've been up there a while, and solar cells degrade over time. So the new iRosas are smaller but more efficient. There are going to be 6 of them instead of 8, and they are basically going to return the International Space Station to its peak power generating capability back, basically the power it could output when we started launching it back in 1998. And the next one is scheduled to go up, I believe, on the next CRS flight with SpaceX up to the International Space Station. They have already started to do some of these spacewalks to prepare for the arrival of the next iRosa set and the installation of them.
I think we have to make sure we're talking to the real Chris Gebhardt, because he just talked about a couple shuttle missions and didn't say the word shuttle.
Aha! Well, that's because I wanted someone else to say it.
Well, there you go. You got me. You win.
I'm predicting a very happy Chris B in the chat in about 5 seconds.
So we are 3 minutes away from launch. Chris, are you operating the camera? Do you need to go do camera things?
Thomas is today, yes.
Aha, Thomas is operating the camera. Thomas, Godspeed with the track. We know you're going to get everything set here. We might see a little bit of wobble on the camera as you get things ready to go.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do my best here, and full disclosure, we still have a bit of a cloud deck to work with. I will keep tracking it as long as I can, and if it pops up through some holes in the clouds higher up, I'm going to give it my best shot, but we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we'll get some cool views despite the clouds today. Weather rocket operating for the launch itself, though.
The rocket, this stream not sponsored by FedEx. The rocket is going to April Fool's us. It's going to be like, hey, I'm launching. Joke's on you. I'm in a cloud. Like, weird. That's what's going to happen. But we'll still get the best views that we can, either from Fleet Cam or from the SpaceX feed or what have you. We'll do what we can here. But
well, and I do have our camera down to the south, just in case.
Excellent. Excellent. People in chat are saying FedEx has one more payload. Talk about late load.
Wait.
Good.
We have one more. Don't
Yeah.
watch it.
Good stuff. Let's see. We are getting real close here. Real quickly, Connie Lim, thank you for the support. Jim Cabot, thank you for the support. Carlos Yanez, thanks for the support. They say, is Dream Chaser ever going to fly on a Falcon 9? That, I don't know if we have time for that question right now. Does anyone want to give like a one-word answer to that?
Dream Chaser is scheduled to fly on Vulcan and only Vulcan at this point.
All right, thank you, Chris. You can see that other vent we were talking about, purging those lines of the transporter erector, as we are 1 minute and 20 seconds away. And Raj, thank you for the support there. We appreciate all the super chatters. We appreciate all y'all for watching. Thank you so much for choosing us for your spaceflight coverage. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Pick up some merch if you would like to. I'm so sorry that we don't have a broomstick in the store. I feel like that's a real lost opportunity there. But 1 minute to go. And as always, we will sort of be quiet and let the sounds of those 9 Merlin engines fill your speakers and rejoin the commentary a few moments after we start to lose that audio. But we are getting very close, T-minus 40 seconds, and counting roughly, give or take.
You could say basically as soon as it vented, whence our voice went away.
There you go.
Sorry.
Are you, though?
No.
20 seconds to go. Falcon 9 is under its own control. It's in its little startup routine. We are 10 seconds away. See Thomas getting the camera ready to track.
Good
Look
luck, Falcon 9.
Look at the bottom of the screen right there for... You can see the water deluge. And liftoff of Falcon 9 from Slick 40 on the Transporter 4 mission. Looks like we've cleared the 4 towers. And Falcon is on its way.
It launched! That was it! It launched! You'll hear it in a second.
Oh, we can hear it, Chris.
Oh, I thought I was muted, sorry.
You're coming up on max Q.
Okay, you can now see how it's above the cloud layer.
It's a cool shot.
Yep.
And max Q. That is the moment where the rocket passes through the most dynamic pressure during ascent. You can see the exhaust plume from the 9 Merlin engines starting to expand as the vehicle travels higher in the atmosphere and the air pressure gets lower. Always love to hear the sound of a rocket engine tearing the air asunder with its power. And always love seeing that exhaust plume expand as the vehicle climbs through the atmosphere.
It's a very good working broomstick.
Indeed. We did. Great job, Thomas.
It was better than the 0 minutes of tracking and visuals that we had here from the beach.
Yeah.
We could tell from your voice, Chris, that you basically saw nothing.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm sorry. I thought I had myself muted, but we're out here with everyone from the public who came down to the beach, and everyone just started looking around as Steven and I started laughing. And we needed to make very clear that it had lifted off, and we weren't laughing for anything else.
No worries. And we're coming up on Miko, and we have main engine cutoff
Look at that.
and stage SEP.
It's always a good sign when a rocket launched when you have to tell people, no, it really launched.
SN11 vibes. What was it, a year ago
Oh, no.
yesterday? And second
Sure.
stage startup. Second stage is doing its job. You can see the
Woo.
engine nozzle there heating up as it starts to do the work of pushing the second stage into orbit. The second stage Merlin, that MVAC nozzle, that's ablative, right? Or is that cooled in some way other than ablation? And fairing SEP,
Oh, look at that.
Correct. I believe you are correct, Jack. Yes. Ablated.
neat. So on the left side, we've got the Falcon 9 first stage booster coming back to Earth, going to land on a drone ship. And on the right side, we've got the second stage, powering the Transporter 4 stack into orbit, sun-synchronous orbit to be precise. And I always love this shot so much because it's not a shot that currently any other launch provider can do. It's like, hey, look, we've got two things happening right now. We're not just sending something into orbit, we're also bringing something back.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Nmap is basically at the top, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's at the top of the payload stack, and all the other right-share payloads are below it.
And it's
And-
also
and
the
it-
first one to launch, to deploy.
Yeah,
Also-
and it is also worth noting. Look at the apogee of that first stage. That we're used to, because this is going to a higher orbit, right? This is initially targeting a 650-kilometer circular orbit, and you can see how much higher and how much more steeply they kept the pitch during first stage flight because of how high up that booster is over 212 kilometers in altitude and still climbing, and it has to come back down to land as the second stage is already nearing 270 kilometers in altitude. So very good difference here looking at that altitude to see how the rocket adjusts its pitch based on what orbit it's inserting into.
Yeah, 223 kilometers right now and still climbing. It's so crazy how the engines on it impart so much momentum and so much velocity that it even after they're shut down and the stage is separated, it still just keeps coasting upwards for so long.
Is that a record, by the way?
Indeed.
Don't know. That's a good
I
question.
don't want to say until I have a chance to check. Yes.
I will ping Alex just because I feel like there's a good chance he knows.
It's like it is topped out at 233 kilometers. There we go. I can talk. And chat is telling me that Tim Dodd did a video talking about the Falcon 9 second stage cooling on that MVAC, and then it uses all three cooling methods, which I did not know. Neat.
Nice. I love that shot of the booster. You can see the lighter blue water and some of the islands of the Bahamas. Look at that.
Wow, that is gorgeous. Yeah, and you can see it on the second stage as well. I don't know if it's the same area, if that's also the Bahamas, but that is just gorgeous. Some subtle reminder that the planet we live on is a beautiful place.
Indeed. Indeed it is.
So it's not a record.
Okay.
The record was Formosat 5 in 2017 with a 247 kilometers apogee.
So not a record, but not far off either.
It's the second place, it seems.
Yeah. All right. So as you can see, first stage on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see its velocity increasing as it's falling back down toward the planet. The entry burn coming up here for it, which normally takes place once it's down under 80 kilometers, like in the 70-kilometer range in altitude, will help slow that vehicle down so that the heat that is imparted to it as it comes back into the atmosphere doesn't violate any of the constraints on the booster for landing and reuse here.
Check out the velocity on the bottom left of the screen there. You can just see that it's going faster and faster and faster as it starts coming back towards Earth, 187 kilometers now. And the second stage also going faster and faster and faster, but we will see, unlike the second stage, which we'll see that number continue climbing, once that entry burn starts up, we'll see that velocity on the left-hand side there for the first stage just immediately start to drop rapidly as the what is it going to be, a 3-engine entry burn? How do they do that? Is it 1
Indeed.
engine, 3 engine? I forget always.
So the center engine lights first, and then 2 of the outer engines light second. So it is a 3-engine entry burn.
Got it. And we are coming up on that. You can see it down there in the timeline, just a few moments away from that entry burn. Fighting fire with fire. I know. I feel like we always say that, but it's the truth. It's shielding itself in its own exhaust plume, which is just wild.
Indeed it is, and you can see the second stage there now at 570 kilometers in altitude, still a bit to go as it continues to insert itself there, and they are aiming for a 650 kilometer circular orbit thereabouts for the second stage here, and that final velocity on the second stage should be around 27,000 kilometers per hour, so still a ways to go for that second stage in terms of velocity increase here in the final few seconds of flight. But at 80 kilometers in altitude for the first stage, the entry burn is about to begin here.
Here we go.
There it is.
There it is. And just watch that velocity plummet from this moment on. Falcon 9 is deep enough in the atmosphere that this entry burn will reduce the velocity enough that the velocity will keep decreasing as the atmospheric pressure increases as Falcon 9 continues to head down towards sea level and the drone ship there on the left-hand side of your screen. And of course, we want to see the second stage. They're continuing to do its firing to get that stage into orbit with the payloads today.
Just doing a little bit of wobbling here. Interesting.
It does that as it reorients itself after the entry burn so that it is not aimed directly at the drone ship.
That makes sense. You don't want to just spear the drone ship if the landing burn does not go just right.
Exactly. And hopefully we'll get that view back because, man, when the drone ship just appears from the water underneath it, that's an epic shot if they can get it today.
It really is, especially with that blue water. All right, we're coming up on landing and also MECO. Or is it MECO or SECO?
SECO.
Thank you. I love how they happen at the same time, too.
Yeah. And we have a shutdown, 27,500 kilometers an hour and 649 kilometers in altitude. That, my friends, is a good orbit for Falcon 9. And here comes the first stage.
There it is.
Look at that solid video.
That looks good.
That looks good.
Yes.
That was a nice view.
That was a great, yeah, the view didn't stop. That was awesome. And that is now B1061-8 that you see there because they level up upon landing. So
it'll
basically get another whole skill interface. They can skill up and pick new attributes. It's a video game for them.
Yeah, Falcon 9 booster is like, all right, which way am I going to go on the skill tree? Do I want the stat that lets me launch more often? Do I want a stat that lets me... Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Adrian.
Also, the first deployment is not that far away. Nmap will deploy at about 14 minutes. So
all right, so we're coming up on deploy.
Yeah, so the basic structure for this mission is 3 payloads will deploy here at this altitude, at the 650 kilometer altitude orbit, and then about 11 minutes after the final payload deploy, the final of the 3 first payloads deploy, Falcon 9 will reignite its engine for a couple second burn to lower its orbit, and then 45 minutes later do another burn, short 1 second burn, to circularize that lower orbit, and then the remaining 37 satellites will deploy into the lower 500 kilometer orbit.
Got it. Well, while we wait for that deploy, which sounds like we don't have to wait long, but while we do, don't forget, at NASA Spaceflight, if you guys have any questions, we'll see that question pop up, and I can ask the smarter people here. Dougal is asking, how much of a speed difference is there between the first sats and the last ones?
Say that again? Sorry.
How much of a speed difference? Will they have to go faster at the second at the second orbital spot that they're going.
Yes, in terms of the relation of the speed to the ground of the Earth, you actually go faster in lower orbits and slower in higher orbits. Yay, orbital mechanics. Orbital velocity at orbital velocity in low Earth orbit is roughly 7.7, 7.6 meters per second. And up at geostationary altitude, where a lot of our telecommunication satellites are, though that orbital velocity is roughly 3.2 kilometers, or roughly 3.2 meters per second.
Good question, Dougal. John Ferris is asking, why is there no landing pad on an island there? Because I mean, it's because you're not always going to go to the exact same point, right? That this launch used the southern polar corridor, stupid polar corridor, out of the Cape, and that's not always the same direction. So you want a barge that you can position wherever you please. I think is
You
the
had to
easy
slender
way to
that
put
corridor,
that.
right?
Say what?
You had to slender that corridor, right?
Yeah, I hate the southern polar corridor. They're taking our launches from Vandy. Stupid polar corridor. It's stupid. I'm an official NASA spaceflight source, and I'm here to tell you the southern the southern polar corridor is stupid.
Yeah.
Deployment is coming up.
Yeah, I like how no one's gonna fight me on that one. Thank you, everybody. Yep, here we go for deploy. For you said the first one's gonna be Nmap, right?
Yep. Ground station there, will we have wheels?
Looks like we might not get visual of deploy. Chat says Wayward Cruise Ship agrees about the polar corridor. Team Vandy. Vandenberg is the best. West Coast, best coast. Yeah, chat is just on point today. I made some of those up.
Yeah, some of these I did not catch. I was about to say.
But yeah,
Oh, man.
so the fact that we're not seeing anything, I just kind of want to step in to explain this because it doesn't mean that anything is wrong. There are tracking stations up the eastern coast of the United States and in Bermuda that when the Falcon 9s go north out of the Cape, that's what allows us to keep that communication signal with them constantly, because you just switch from various tracking station to various tracking station up the eastern seaboard of North America. But when they go south like this, once they lose the line of sight to Cape Canaveral, which was what you heard, LOS Cape as expected, they don't have any downrange tracking stations down there. So that's why we're not seeing the visuals of things. And that's why some of the Starlink missions that have gone south, it's taken 90 minutes for them to confirm deployment because they needed the satellites to come back over the next ground station. So that's all that's happening here today. It doesn't indicate that there's a problem or anything like that.
Yeah, until Starlink and rockets are a thing, or like communication from rockets are more of a thing, we have to rely on these ground stations, right? And there's only so many ground stations around the world, and maybe you have contact with one, but it doesn't support video or what have you. There's a variety of different things going on.
Right.
Patrick, why are you in the YouTube chat? You should not be in YouTube chat. You should be pushing buttons and pulling levers. I'm just kidding. Jerwa, thanks for the support. You're awesome, Jerwa. And Moogie, thank you for the support. They say, why does the speed of the... Yeah, Moogie. Why does the speed of the booster not go to 0 as it tops out in altitude? Oh, like as it stops coasting upwards and starts coming back down.
Yep.
Is there not a point where it zeroes out? Or I wasn't looking at the telemetry right then.
There is not. So basically, the way it works from a velocity standpoint is you have whatever your velocity is at that stage when the engines cut out is the maximum that you're going to get right away. But you're actually going to, but you can actually increase speed on the opposite side. So basically, you got to think of it this way: if you're driving up a hill, you're in a car, a gas car, and you are driving up a hill, and you take your foot off the accelerator, right? Well, you're going to lose velocity as you continue to climb uphill But once you get to the top of that hill and you start going down again, and if you don't press the accelerator in a gas car, you start accelerating as you're going down. It's the exact same thing that you're doing with the Falcon 9. So just as you would not reach 0 at the top of that hill, otherwise you just fall back down, neither does the Falcon 9. The Falcon 9 just sort of transfers that energy through gravity losses, because energy can neither be created nor destroyed, as it's going up. So it loses velocity, and then it reaches the peak of its hill, its apogee in its suborbital trajectory, and then gravity starts pulling it back down and increasing that velocity again. So that's basically how it works. But no, it does not reach 0 velocity until it reaches the drone ship.
I learned something
I'm sure
today.
there's-
I love that.
I'm sure there's also like a horizontal component to the velocity as well, where it's going
yes.
sideways a bit and not just straight up. So that's probably got to be part of it too. Cool. Well, I think that does us for super chats there. Thank you to everybody for all of the very generous support. Thank you to all of our members too. Very cool that you guys are so supportive of what we do, and we appreciate you choosing us for your launch coverage. But with that, I think it's going to be a while until second engine start and all of that, and I don't think we're going to get any more views from SpaceX, so I think we should call it for today. But really quick, Dino CR, thank you for upgrading your membership to Launch Director. That is one of the higher levels of support we have. You get your name in the end credits of NASA Spaceflight Live every week. Plus, you get all the cool other perks like the Discord access, the chat emoji, preview videos, the photos, all of the cool stuff that we're doing behind the scenes. So thank you, Dino CR, so much for the support. Thank you to all of our members. I can't say it enough. We could not do what we do without the support of members like you. Sean M, thank you for the support. They said, blows my mind that Chris G knows orbital velocities up the top of his head. Well, that's why we love him. And Lars...
It's a specialty.
Lars Larson, thank you for the support. They say 50,000 millisec for your robot camera CubeSat fun. That would be cool.
Don't
at
give
some
us
point,
ideas.
yeah, I was gonna say at some point DOS is gonna have to put a camera on a CubeSat. He's put a camera on literally everything else so far. So, all right, well, that has been Falcon 9 and Transporter 4. I'm Jack Beyer. Hopefully you're not tired of my voice just yet, but don't worry, not much more left. But also joining me today, we had Adrian Bile. Thank you, Adrian, for the commentary there.
Thanks for having me.
And in the field, we had Chris Gebhardt. Chris, thank you for rolling out there today, even though the weather wasn't great.
Always a pleasure.
Also in the field, we had Stephen Marr, though he was not on comms. And we also had Thomas out there, but Thomas looks like he is packing up and not on comms either. But thank you to him for the, as always, insightful commentary. And of course, in the background, we had Patrick pushing the buttons, pulling the levers. Thanks for doing that, Patrick. Giving Michael a break for a change. It's kind of weird not saying Michael, but yeah, thanks for that. I think that'll do us. Thank you everybody for watching. And without any further ado, let's all go hang out in Starbase Live.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
The chamber pressure looks good. Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Echo Delta nominal.
Flighting outside SCE off. Say again, SCE off. Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.